This is a video by Jack in Santiago, looking out of the window of my new small one-bedroom apartment here, 22nd floor, 22 stories, many more stories, in fact, than that. Stories of gain, stories of loss. But now I'm high up. I have the view of the world that I desire, that I've wanted. And my whole life is here. And the beauty of these mountains, its magnificence. Here I am in Santiago. So many countries before this. First America, then Canada, then Australia, then China. Now Chile. Such beauty. This is what my eyes have ached for. I'm here by myself with you on the internet, and I want to start up a new organization. Loss links us. I'm going to be applying for startup funding from Chile, Startup Chile. And here in the background, this is the video that I love and put on my personal website, resourceforyoursource.com. And it's by Yanni, famous Greek composer, musician, and it's called Love Is All. And this is a key song for my new organization. It's going to be around the world. It's going to be keyed into anyone that needs to have a capable carer when they are facing loss of any kind. I'm going to set this up. I've always wanted to do it, but now's the time. And I'm going to turn it down now. There's my apartment. You can see it. There's the screen. That's Katharine and I there. And what I want to do is, there's my apartment, and here's the wall of various paintings of Katharine's, and, which I'll explain in a minute. And there's my beautiful flower, and paintings. We're here in the apartment. These are mine. Those three in the middle, the yellow ones you see are Katharine. And this is Katharine here, and here, and here. And here's her Valentine's card. Valentine's coming up. And a very personal message that she wrote me in there. My love for you grows ever stronger. I'm missing you. Happy early Valentine's Day. And this is a famous saying that we used to love. Absence is to love what wind is to fire. It extinguishes the small. It enkindles the great. And our love was a great one, and it still enkindles me. And I hope it will enkindle you as well as that magnificent view. Now, I want to read to you. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And you're looking at my IMAX screen here. And I'm going to read to you what's on this page, which is a talk I gave at the Palliative Care Week in 1997, Mount Olivet, which is a palliative care service in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. And I think this song is so fitting. And maybe you can read on the screen there, I said, Yanni, love is all. And there was a comment on YouTube that said, I don't know why the song makes me think of death. About my last day on this planet, strange feeling, all my life passed as a film in front of my eyes. And here's my talk, I'll read it out to you. And there's Katharine and I, you can see us there. Okay, Palliative Care Week, 1997, Mount Olivet. Thanksgiving Ecumenical Church Service Talk by me, Jack Carnick. As to the meaning of life, I can put it in one word, care. Which is what I suppose we are here about this evening as people who have received care as well as given it. I would ask you to consider whether it is ever possible to solely either give care or receive it. Care, I think, can only be a mutually reciprocal affair. Care given is care sought and brought out of us by another, and as such it can be as much or more a surprise and gift to the giver as it is to the receiver. All true carers know this as their natural activity without having to think about it. But it is the job of the sticky beak philosopher to ask the centipede to examine how it walks, then to try to talk it through its paralysis of confusion as to which leg to move first or next while it comes to terms with the consciousness of what it always did before, unconsciously. So I will try to act as a catalyst of consciousness with you concerning care and life. I think the reason why care is the meaning of life is because the human life, the human condition, is fundamentally incurable. Let me use an analogy to explain. Just as there is a medical classification of incurable that applies to an individual unable to be saved from the inevitable progression of a disease that will lead to their death, so too there is a philosophical classification of incurable that applies to humanity's nature and condition as a whole. We are born into an incurably terminal condition or terminally bound, which is to say that each of us as sharers of the human condition are unable to be saved from the inevitable progression of a life process that will lead to our death. There is no cure for life ending in death. There is only the living of this condition as caring for each other as terminally bound sharers. So what will each of you do with this diagnosis and prognosis? Will you be conscious of what is actually your human condition? Will you come to terms with the birth and death terminals of life and live a careful life of caring? Or will you, as many of us tend to do, repress that consciousness and continue as if you will live forever or be saved by science or religion or a career and thus live a careless life of self-pleasuring waste or of quiet desperation? To accept the common human condition is to accept that you are not an exception. Because you share, you care. You express the reality of the interdependence of life by caring. We only care for what we value, and we only value what gives us meaning. Thus, the true carer cares for the personal meaning of the cared for one's life because it gives meaning to the carer's own life. I believe the thing every human being seeks is to live a life of meaning and value, which can only come when we communicate the value and meaning of our personal life to another in exchange for theirs. To illustrate what I mean, I have made the word care into an acronym which reads C for connective, A for acting out, R for reciprocal, E for exchange. Thus, care is the connective acting out of the reciprocal exchange of one person's value for that of another. What we fundamentally communicate is the meaning of value of human life, that is care. When we do not so communicate, we feel meaningless because we are left without the means of meaning, which is other people. Our meaning can only come through mutually caring relationships. I think many of us today are living not only beyond our financial means, but also beyond our human meaning. We cannot only not make financial ends meet, but also we cannot make our terminals of birth and death meet appropriately and enrichingly. I think that until we accept the terms of the human condition and consciously bring our ends to meet one another, we will continue to live lives that hunger for more meaning. We will tend to remain disconnected and isolated from one another and driven to find virtual substitutes for the reality of human relationships. We will continue to avoid the pain of separation from our personal life sources by pursuing bodily pleasure, wealth, power, fame, or whatever else we do to entertain the emptiness. It is most difficult to be cured of our need to believe there is a cure for the terms of life. It is hard to grow up and become responsible for our common condition and recognize we must care for one another because we are all interdependently vulnerable. The true meaning of the word vulnerable is wound. When we face the meaning and value of life in the light of the meaning of death, we also then face our vulnerability and the fact that we are walking wounds. We are whole halves and we bleed with the vulnerability of our being torn at birth from our original unity. The cry of pain at birth is echoed in the cry of pain at death. We are born into our separation and we seek our unity thereafter. Beginning with our mother, we cry out for others to return this necessary outflow of our separate life as the social circuit wherein we are nourished to nourish each other mutually. If we remain alone, we bleed to death of meaninglessness or the non-communication of our common human meaning. What we really exchange in the marketplace or anywhere else is not money or goods, but the good of human life. I think the ultimate connection of intimacy most of us are seeking, we hope to find in our spouse. When we find our completing other half, we fuse to make that whole which frees us to be more than we could be alone. Our wound is then able to open fully into the others, and it is in just such a relationship that we are truly healed and made whole. We become the life force we circulate, and the value of the relationship rises above that of the separate participants. Such an intimate meeting and exchange over time extends our sensitivity as openness to life in general. Of course, a beloved one may die. Our immense gain then turns to immense loss and pain. This is the reality of the human condition. As James Lynch wrote in The Broken Heart, the ultimate price exacted for commitment to other human beings rests in the inescapable fact and loss and pain will be experienced when they are gone. It is a toll no one can escape and a price that everyone will be forced to pay repeatedly. Part of the human dilemma is that the same companionship that keeps people healthy can also seriously threaten their health when it is taken away. It is when our closest loved one, whether spouse, parent, children, best friend, becomes terminally ill that we have the fearful opportunity to face the fact of our own vulnerability and the reality of our common human condition. In the terminal living process, note I say living rather than dying, we are forced to confront our connections to life or the lack of them. If we do this, if we do it at all, through the threat of these connections, removal from us as the absence of loved ones. Relationships that were taken for granted may now come to seem absolutely precious. We can use the terminally ill situation if we are fortunate enough to have found the right enabling conditions. To turn to personal relationships is our main meaning and our main task in life. That is the end of the talk I gave in 1997. Here's my screen again. And you can see Kathy's song at the bottom. You can see two hearts in one house. That's what I have just read you here. That's Katharine and I in 1993, Australia. There's Yanni's Love Is All that's playing now in the background. You can see there. This is my apartment, the wall. Beautiful scenery. Out the window, the beautiful view. Love is all, Katharine, my love, and the view out the window. There it is. Goodbye.